Hey there. Today I'm going to be sharing a few life-changing things from an amazing book I've recently read while doing something creative just for the sake of getting in a creative flow state, not for a certain visual outcome. So I hope you enjoy watching me push around some paint and find it satisfying as I share some of the things that have really transformed my life this year, and I hope that they can transform yours too. I wish I could share these insights with everyone in the world and teach them how creative practice can help us to find calm, balance, and so much joy. So no matter where you are or what you're doing, take a deep breath with me right now and settle in, because your life will never be the same after hearing this if you take these concepts and work them into your life. I promise. So, anxiety is a pervasive little thing. It's often coupled with depression. And if you're like me, often you don't even recognize anxiety for what it is when it comes up. I tend to think I'm being super brilliant or practical when I am completely acting out of anxiety and living in misery without realizing it. It took me a long time to start spotting this and to move beyond it, and obviously something I'm still working on, but these techniques have helped me tremendously. So I'm actually curious what anxiety looks for you. Do you have an experience that's similar to mine where you don't even realize that anxiety is driving your ship, so to speak, or are you able to spot it pretty quickly and know that that's what's going on? Drop me a little comment and let me know. I'm curious. Either way, I'm so excited for Martha Beck, who has collected many Harvard degrees and left it all to live her own creative life. She's actually Oprah's life coach, I believe, among many others, and doing a lot of wonderful things, running some cool programs, writing good books. But she describes anxiety in this book in ways that define it in such a nuanced way that I hadn't heard before, and I found so helpful. One way she describes it is as our brain's way of trying to protect us, but sometimes getting stuck in overdrive. She then goes on to explain little ways anxiety can show up and ways that we might be acting out of anxiety but not even realizing it. One that stood out to me that I hadn't heard of before, we've heard of flight or fight, right? Those are the original ones, flight or fight. There's more F's, including fawn. There's freeze or fawn or flop. So many F's that when we're in an anxious state, basically worried about our survival, which happens more often than it should these days. But those can be some other reactions. So if you find yourself fawning over someone like, oh, are you all right? Are you okay? Is everything? That is actually a fear state, and it can be a trauma response, which I didn't realize until this book, and it makes so much sense. I can look to many moments and many people in my life and see when that's happening. So anyway, I'm going to plug the book one more time. Please do go read it, because the stuff that I'm giving you today is just a taste and it's so helpful, but the big picture she provides in the book will be even more helpful. So anyway, she suggests that instead of fighting anxiety, to approach it with kindness and curiosity. So to imagine our anxious thoughts as a frightened animal, and instead of scaring it away, I think she calls it an anxiety creature, the part of us that gets scared for whatever reason. Invite it closer, listen, and offer comfort. And she spells out a lot of really brilliant techniques for dealing with this. And some are very quickly applicable, and others are more in depth, like Richard Schwartz's internal family systems, which I'm a huge fan of. We'll definitely do a video on that later. But she talks about how to use it. And so, quick boil down of this is that there are many parts of us, and our anxious part is just one of them. And if our higher self, our whole self, can look to this anxious part and attend to its needs, it will soften much more quickly. That is a huge oversimplification. And if you're really looking to change your life, Richard Schwartz's internal family systems therapy and the way the technique that Martha explains in the book is a really great way to go into more depth with that. But what I really want to focus on today, out of all the techniques she provides, the technique that she calls dedicated play, I believe, which is exactly what I'm doing right now with this paint. Engaging in creative activities just for the joy of it, not for any outcome. This shifts our brains from anxiety to creativity and opens the door to so much joy and meaning. So Martha references Jill Bolte Taylor's work and explains how she used this and her own experimentations to figure out that when you're being creative just for the joy of it, it's impossible to be anxious, and it shuts that part of your brain down. Sadly, the inverse of this is true too, and when you're stuck in anxiety, it is impossible to be truly creative, as is evidenced by many studies that show when payment's offered for a task, people become less creative. This has tremendous implications for how to make a living as a creative. We'll circle back around to that later. But I'd like to focus in this moment on how any person, even if you don't consider yourself particularly artistic, musical, creative, anything like that, you can still use these concepts to make your life 100% magical. And if you are already a creative, even more so, because you'll get back to doing the things that you love without anxiety getting in the way. So I'm going to give you some quick cliff notes to get you started. But please do check out the book. She is a magical human being herself, and the work she did putting these ideas together in such a helpful way is irreplaceable. So for the next 5 minutes, we're going to get you started on carving space for your own transformative creative practice. It can be anything at all, a new skill, something you've done forever. Doesn't have to be art. It could be collecting flowers in a field, a certain way of cleaning your house, the way you play with your children. The secret sauce is that you are not seeking a certain outcome. I'm going to say that again because it's so important. The secret sauce is that you are not seeking a certain outcome. You are engaged in what you're doing and soaking up every ounce of pleasure from every second of what you're doing. You're essentially putting yourself in a flow state. And there's a ton of research out there about how flow states can improve your happiness and health. And Brene Brown's research also shows that people who play tend to be less prone to getting stuck in feelings of shame. So this is definitely something that you'll be grateful you did. So real quick, right now, grab a piece of paper, and I want you to write down 3 to 50 things that spark your interest or spark a little joy inside you when you think about doing them. I mean, you can write down more than 50 if you really want to, because even the act of making this list might get you into a creative flow state and quiet those not so pleasant feelings that like to follow us around, especially for those of us living today with our decreased connection to nature and the hyper left brain society we live in now. Anyway, go ahead and pause this video so you can make a quick list and then come back to me. Okay, have you made your list? Great. Now, circle the things that spark the most joy. Pick one that you can do immediately and just go. This is more important than whatever task list you have today, so it should be easy to carve out some time. This is more important because, number 1, it will make the tasks you set out to do even easier because you'll be in a calm, clearly thinking state. And secondly, do it because once you start and you start doing something like this every day, it will save your life. I didn't think my life needed saving. I didn't even realize how stuck in anxiety I was until I started creating again for the sake of creating. Which is understandable if you've ever made money with your creativity, because it can be really hard to get back to this place of creating for joy and just purely for the sake of creation. So when you create professionally, we often have hyperfixation on showing our work with the social media era. And the second I stopped filming myself in dance class so that I could post it later. I started loving dance anymore. When I stopped making art without thinking, is this sellable? Will people like it? Should I be filming? My brain shifted into such a blissful state that I hadn't felt in so long. But please go experience this for yourself. There's nothing like it, and taking my word for it won't get you in the habit of doing this every day, because once you get a taste of this, it's addicting, and I want you to experience it. So go ahead, try it for yourself, and then come back for part 2 of this concept. I can't really explain the second part until you've experienced this, so take just a couple minutes, do it now. Nothing else is more important. And then come back for the second video when you're ready, and I'll show you what became of this little creative project that my kids and I started together, and I finished as well. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I look forward to connecting with you very soon.